Hello, I'm Kathleen Waldron, President of William Paterson University in Wayne. The university is proud to be an active partner in our community. We are especially pleased to host the conference, Flooding in Passaic County, Impact and Response, a forum for the discussion of the scientific and public policy implications of flooding in the Passaic River Basin. This short film was developed to chronicle the severe impact that repeated flooding from the Passaic River and its tributaries has had on local residents and businesses. I hope you appreciate this film.
Anything that reduces the flood peak, that is, keeps the water in the upland areas faster and releases the water at a slower rate, will reduce the flood peak downstream.
I know that there's some efforts being made in Passaic County to get the funding, federal funding, to do some of the work.
I can't understand why they just don't put more federal money to clean up these rivers, get rid of the problem.
The water all gets downstream eventually. Question is when. And by reducing the flood peak, you make that flood wave more manageable and less destructive downstream.
In most heavy rains and minor flooding in the neighborhood, we're okay. But Irene was certainly the exception. We just watch the water rise as it normally does. It comes up the side street and around the corner, and it just kept rising and rising. And at one point, we're just like, we can't stay here, and we had the
5-day-old baby.
Yeah, so we had to call the
Fire department.
to send a boat here to get us.
So ridiculous.
I understand that the governor agreed to lower Pompton Lake by a few feet to create an empty basin for Irene to dump into. And by doing that, he saved our first floor, because those few feet would have been in the space we're sitting in now, which is our living space. How many times in a year can you be flooded and be expected to pay your $2,000 or $4,000 deductible and rebuild your home only to have it flood 2 months later or 3 months later?
Specifically for this house, but we've also spoken with neighbors who were here for, many years before, and it all seems to be related to the dam operation, right?
This location, we typically would have 165 preschoolers, 3- and 4-year-olds with the Patterson School District, and up to 120 infants and toddlers, so a total of almost 285 children. The total damage, and just in cleaning out, decontaminating, and then the restoration and replacing the equipment in 12 classrooms and a playroom is going to exceed $1 million. We have insurance, we have flood insurance. It will not cover the entire costs. The work that's already been done to decontaminate, get the mold out, get all the other contaminants out of the building is probably in the ballpark of $750,000. And that's not begun to replace any of the walls or flooring or certainly not any of the equipment yet. And here in Paterson, there's such a shortage of infant and toddler care. Our center this site was the largest provider of infant and toddler care in the area, and it's been down now for several months. People are scurrying to find out what to do with their babies if they have to go to work. And I don't have any way to tell what some of them are doing. I know we've been able to relocate, as I said, some of the families to our other site, but I'm not sure what the others are doing. It took at least 4 to 5 weeks that they were in here doing extensive dry out and decontamination and removing the contaminated sheetrock and floorboards and ceiling tiles. We applied to FEMA for some assistance as a school. They told us that school wasn't in session at the end of the summer, the weekend, whenever it was they hit, and denied us.
The water was around for a good 2.5 weeks, I would say. It hindered our ability to ship to our customers. We have had 3 major floods in the last 30 years. So, a 100-year flood zone shouldn't have every 10 years a massive flood. We were lucky to be insured because the bill was $800,000 to clean up the basement. We're a paper company, so imagine, 200 pallets or 300 pallets that we lost in the basement that is all just printed paper. It was just mush. There was 7 feet of water in the street. The pressure against our building of that much water in the street just blew a hole right into our building, and the hole was so, I mean, water is such a strong force that it literally took a chunk of the wall, blew it through another, and collapsed an entire cement wall. That's how forceful that water was, and filled our basement. They came in and spent 3 weeks here, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 weeks, and they had about 50 people. And they cleaned up, took away all the debris, took away all the waste, cleaned our basement floors and our walls, and really left the place in great shape. But it was a very expensive thing to do. You know, when they see how often this area floods, they're liable to say, we're not going to insure you anymore. We'd like to stay here. You know, we have a great workforce, mostly from Patterson. It's a great city, and I think it's really, you know, ridiculous that we haven't done something about the water issue.
Hurricane Irene, we got 27 inches of water, and basically we were shut down from August 27th to November 11th. We wanted people to know that it's the first time we ever flooded here since 1988. And we decided to do a full remodel because we serve food, and we want people to know that, you know, we didn't just paint walls, we gutted everything and we made it new.
Irene, our total structural payout was $41,000. And the contents, our contents limit is $11,000. So that's what it was. We had more than double that in contents loss. We weren't prepared for 4 feet. We were prepared for 2 feet. We had barriers set to 2 feet. We had everything moved 2 feet or so off the floor. We knew that in '84 this house got less than 2 feet, so we thought, you know, worst that happens, okay, we had everything up. We had the couch up on blocks, you know, everything stacked up. We didn't expect that the water would be high enough to float and tip the furniture. We bought this house. There was no claims history on it at all. Talking to neighbors, we found out it did flood in '84, but everything flooded in '84. So that, you know, that was expected. And when we made the repairs in 2010, we did find some evidence that there had been previous repairs. But other than that, you know, we knew we were buying a house that didn't flood seasonally. We knew we were in the 100-year floodplain, and if something really catastrophic happened, we would flood. We took the insurance, but we were certainly not expecting to be worrying about flooding every spring. The people we bought the home from lived here for, I think, 13 years. And never had water. It was a very frightening situation to realize that we couldn't get out under our own power. And I will not let my family be in that situation again. I can't do it to my kids. I want to see mitigation. I want to see the reservoirs regulated in a way that helps flood victims. I want to see development control, because if we don't get development control, we're looking at such long-term problems. We're chasing our tail if we don't get development control. And we will never get ahead of the solution, get ahead of the problem, if we don't start controlling upland development.
The flooding itself is made worse by development in the uplands. The greater the water runs off from impervious areas on the hillsides, the faster it gets down to the lowlands. So the development makes the flooding worse that way. But the development in the floodplains means the impact of that flooding is greater.
We've discussed not being able to plan on being anywhere but home from late February until early May. We need to be here to monitor our home.
This is a community where people do help with that, and people do just show up and give you a hand and walk you through what to do and make sure that you get things back in order and help guide you in fighting with the insurance companies, because it's always a fight. This is a community that I feel really, really is worth protecting. It's not even a matter now of what we want, it's what we need.
There's no way to solve the flooding problem short of getting people out of the way of the floods. And that's just not a feasible solution. It's also not feasible to stop the floods. I mean, that would involve holding all the water back. So there must be some solution that incorporates everything we can in terms of reducing the flood wave, getting people out of the way, or hardening or making structures less flood prone. So any one of those individually is going to cost money. Together they will all cost a bunch of money. It has to be balanced though against the benefits for having people living that close to the water, or the aesthetic benefits that come from having people there. So it's a trading balance. It's a trade-off between profit and cost.